What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. And today we have the official information for the characters that are dropping for the worldwide anniversary here on February 25th. You can see on the official Twitter video here, February 25th, 1900 PST until April 13th. This Sugo Fest goes for a very long time, and typically the way that they structure the worldwide anniversaries is we get this initial batch. There's probably going to be a batch for Treasure Map. I wouldn't be surprised if they do a Kazuna one as well in March. We'll have to wait and see exactly what they have planned. But they're starting us off with not only Legend Blackbeard, but surprise, surprise, Jesus Burgess is also a Sugo Fest exclusive. Now, I have a feeling that Burgess will be a normal legend, but Blackbeard is going to be like an anniversary exclusive character. That's what it looks like it's going to be. Now, we currently have the information right now for Blackbeard. I have not read a single thing about this unit, so this is going to be my first initial reaction to his information, so I'm excited to jump into it. So without further ado, let's have a look. So he's going to be a strength unit, driven powerhouse with a super class driven. I was kind of anticipating them to potentially do an EX super for Blackbeard, but they didn't opt to do that. Super tandem, barrier pierce, I kind of like that, so I'm not going to really look at too much else. I want to go straight to the captain ability, okay? So, Captain ability allows crew's normal attacks to ignore enemy defensive effects, but cancels crew's defensive effects. Already, I'm on board. This is a great start to this kit. I'm loving that. Okay. It doesn't look like there's any cooldown, because typically that's like one of the first sentences, so that's a little bit of a shame, but that's already a huge positive, okay? Boost driven and powerhouse attack by 5 times, 1.2 HP. Dex, quick, and tandem slots are matching. If the crew has a fighter slash a striker shooter, boost driven and powerhouse characters attack by 5.75 times. Woo! Alright. Matching slots. And he's very similar to V1 Blackbeard, actually. Like, very, very similar to V1 Blackbeard. Okay. When the crew applies a threshold effect with a special, converts that effect to boost damage dealt to increase damage taken by 2.25 for 1 turn. Ooh, this is interesting. Okay, so if his kit is inflicting increased damage taken, especially if it goes through immunity, this is gonna be a very interesting captain. Okay, I'm loving this so far. No cooldown, as I said, and his special, I don't know what it does, but it's 14 turns, right? 14 turns is hefty. That's a hefty cooldown. So you're not going to really use him for like normal-ish content, like arenas potentially, because you have to do quite a lot of stall, but it's just a good captain ability. Like, high multipliers, matching slots, HP. He does have a super tandem, which I don't know what it does yet, but in theory, this is a good start. I don't really see too much wrong with this, at least initially. One thing that would have been cool if he had like an effect in his captain that removed like a certain debuff by 10 turns, but by having the ability to bypass defensive effects with normal attacks is very good. But then you got a character like 6-star Gear 5 Luffy, and albeit he is a Super Sugo Fest exclusive, but he can bypass that whilst also resisting debuffs. Just drawing comparisons, okay? Let's have a look at the special. If the enemy's damage reduction or threshold has 6 or more turns, I'm not a big fan of that, applies increased damage taken to all enemies by 2.25 for 1 turn, ignoring immunity to status effects. Okay, so you do get it only if the enemy has Rainbow Shield or Threshold with 6 or more turns. That's a pretty hefty condition. I mean, yes, that is somewhat common, but the fact that you're not always guaranteed to get this does kind of suck, honestly. Furthermore, if the crew has 5 or more of the same slots from Strength, Dex, Quick, Recovery, or Tandem, that's really bizarre. Boost Strength and Driven and Powerhouse characters' orbs by 3 times for 3 turns. What the heck? This effect cannot be removed by the crew or the enemies. Further increases the crew's attack boost by 0.25. Where are we at? Further crew's attack boost by 0.25, and changes his own slot, including block into tandem. If the crew has 5 or more of the same slots from block, psi, or int, changes all slots including block into empty. Change empty multiplier to 2.25 for 3 turns, and then boost strength driven and powerhouse orbs by 3 times for 1 turn. And then after that, boost strength driven and powerhouse characters orb boost by 2.75 times for 1 turn, and applies increased damage taken status to all enemies by 1.75. Dude, what? Okay. That's a very strange special. Alright, so I can already tell immediately I'm not the biggest fan of this unit right now. I really hope that his superclass is, number one, a very good condition that's easy to fulfill, and number two, applies a full board of one of these slots, because if that doesn't happen, if he isn't self-sufficient and if he relies on other characters to get these slots, I don't know how good this is gonna be. It's interesting, because hypothetically, if you just have random slots, right, and you have an enemy doesn't have this damage reduction effect, the special doesn't do anything, because the crew has to have 5 more of the same slots to actually get the buffs to activate. So I don't think this is like that amazing, honestly. It seems kind of mid so far, but like, yes, if you planned it out correctly with the right team, which I assure you that his crew that are coming as rare recruits are going to fulfill this condition pretty well. I'm not a big fan of this so far, personally. It's just the way that I view it. Crewmate ability 1, double damage dealt against quick, so he basically is hitting for neutral damage against everything at a minimum, and then base stats for driven by 70. Okay, let's move on. Let's scroll down here to the support. Support to Aokiji and any of his crewmates. If you use a special to change orbs, reduces defense up by 3. Okay, that's fantastic. That's a very good support effect that we'll definitely see play. The super tandem, you need to have 2 of the listed characters. So it's any of his crewmates. It does include Aokiji as well. Okay, it's a fine condition, but using his crewmates together is somewhat difficult because there aren't a lot of good versions of these units. That's the real problem with this type of effect. As we saw with like the treasure map legend Blackbeard, he had that same issue where, yes, his super tandem, it was okay, but having 2 of his crewmates on your team to fulfill that condition whilst also getting through content was actually pretty difficult to do. The super tandem effect does apply 2.5 attack to driven and powerhouse and further boost orbs by 0.25. It's okay. It's fine. I don't really think it's that great. It's definitely not as good as a lot of other super tandems we have in the game. So, okay, what does his super class do? When any of the characters are on the crew, any of his crewmates, so you just need 1 of them. Okay, that's a positive. Or when the crew has 5 other characters with provoked attack boost. Okay, with the provoked enrage potential ability. Interesting. So you have 5 characters with enrage, or you have 1 of his crewmates. Does he have it himself? He does. Okay, that's pretty decent, I guess. So the superclass effect applies an 80% damage reduction status on enemies. Oh, what? Okay. Okay, this makes sense. Okay, alright. I see what you're doing, Blackbeard. I see what you're doing. Reduces all enemies' increased defense by 6. That's really good. Boosts the effects of superclass of driven characters by increasing the base attack boost to 1.5. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, this is a very good superclass special. So, a couple things. The 80% damage reduction that he applies on enemies obviously doesn't matter when he's the captain, because his captain ability allows your normal attacks to bypass defensive effects. But the other big reason why this is good is because it fulfills the condition for his first status of allowing you to inflict 2.25 times increased damage taken to the opponent. That is really, really good. That is good. And if you apply a threshold effect on your side of the field, you get a conditional boost against it. I get what they're trying to do here, but it just seems very finicky to do. It seems very finicky. Removing 6 turns of blue shield is also really good, because a lot of people don't know this, especially like new players. He allows your normal attacks to bypass defensive effects, so like threshold, barriers, damage nullification, all your normal attacks just ignore it. However, if the enemy has a blue shield, it doesn't ignore that, because that increases like the base defense that character has. So bypassing defensive effects doesn't actually count the enemy's base defense for whatever reason. So this allows you to get around that. But then this effect, when you get a super class on a character, that character with that class gets a 1.2 stat boost. So this is why EX supers are really good, where multiple classes get buffed. So if a character has 2 of the classes that are super classed, it's a 1.2 times a 1.2 buff, 1.44 multiplier. This makes the super driven characters become a 1.5 stat boost. This is already better than double stacking 2 super classes together. That is incredible. Like, that's a really big power jump from this guy. Not only that being a 5.75 captain, pretty strong overall, I think. This is pretty good. So the super class, amazing. Captain ability is pretty good. The special ability is the only thing I have a major question mark on how good or how effective it's going to be, and I feel like the super tandem is very underwhelming. Personally, I'm not a big fan of it. The support effect is absolutely busted as well. So that's the breakdown of Blackbeard's normal abilities here. In normal content, I don't know how good he's going to be. I like he has Barrier Pierce though. Fingers crossed that it's actually a good Barrier Pierce. Recently, characters that have had this potential ability have had the condition skewed, where normally, like way back in the day, any character that had this as a Sugafest exclusive bypassed defensive effects with normal attacks all the time, but then they did this thing recently where characters have to be at certain health thresholds to actually make that work, which is kind of a balancing factor because this potential ability is actually really broken, so I get why they did it. It's just really frustrating that old characters get it and newer characters don't. Let's have a look at his Rumble stuff, because that is also going to be fascinating to see. So he is strength-driven powerhouse, so let's see how he's going to work. 35 CT is rough, very rough. He is a debuffer style character too, so we'll see. Large range for all enemies, defense down level 7, attack down level 7, and targets all enemies for a 35% health cut, and then your strength, dex, and quick type enemies get an 80% chance of action bind. So this is kind of like, it kind of reminds me of like V2 Odin in a way, where it's kind of like an inverse Odin, where instead of like just doing damage and buffing your team, he does a health cut and debuffs the enemies, and then the 80% chance of action bind for 8 seconds. I mean, it seems fine. What's his Rumble ability do? Strength type teammates get a 6 HP buff, 6 defense is very good. Strength dex quick enemies, attack down and defense down level 5. It's solid. It's solid, but is he going to see play in a mono strength team? I just don't think mono strength has the space to put this character on there right now. I think that's the issue. I guess, unless if they're trying to cook up a strength powerhouse team, like, you know, 8.5 or 9.5 anniversary Luffy, he's a strength powerhouse unit. You had Magma Kaido, strength powerhouse. Legend Kuma from the Rumble banner, strength powerhouse, recently is now a 20 cost unit. You could potentially cook something up there, but one of the things that is kind of hard for strength teams is that they don't have a lot of good characters to buff their special CT, so it's going to take a while for him to launch his special. So he does have GP after 40 seconds have passed. Targets all enemies for a 40% health cut. That's actually pretty good. Targets teammates that are below 50% for a 50% CT reduction, and then targets 2 teammates for a 100% chance of haste. So the issue with this is you don't choose which characters get haste. If there was a haste under certain conditions, like haste characters that have max specials on top of that actually would have been amazing. But it's fine. A 40% health cut's good. I just don't think it's that great. He gives buffs to strength and int, and then also powerhouse. I don't think he's going to see play in GP. So I gotta say overall, I'm actually pretty disappointed in this anniversary Blackbeard. I was expecting a lot more. As I said, the captain, the super class, and the support, all thumbs up from me. I think that's all good. The special question marks over that as to how good that's going to be, and the super tandem I think is pretty bad. But of course, there's more characters to talk about. They should be revealing the Jesus Burgess, which I'll make a video about too, so stay tuned to the channel for that one. And of course, we have 4 rare recruits coming in this batch as well, and I'm sure these characters are going to be incredibly good for this Blackbeard. But on initial readings, little disappointed. But let me know your thoughts and opinions about Blackbeard down below in the comment section. Hope you enjoyed this video though. If you did, make sure to go ahead, leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. And that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.